Hello there, I'm Nastasya Tay, and this is the News Hour live from Doha, coming up in the next 60 minutes. There are many calls for help, but we simply cannot reach them. Words of the spokesman of Gaza's Civil Defense Agency recounting the harrowing scenes that have emerged from the north after Israeli troops partially withdrew from that area. Rescue workers have now recovered at least 60 bodies from neighborhoods there in Gaza City, and dozens more are feared buried under the rubble still. And there are accusations that Israeli forces are preventing rescue efforts. Residents, meanwhile, are still told to not return because Israeli snipers and tanks are still there. Well, meanwhile, in the south, witnesses say the Israeli army has again targeted an area that it had designated a so-called safe zone. This attack in Khan Yunis killed at least 7 Palestinians. Well, let's now speak to our correspondent. Can you give us a bit of a report on the state of Gaza City right now? It sounds like the fighting is still ongoing, despite reports of this withdrawal. Well, the Israeli military ordered everyone in Gaza City to evacuate on Wednesday. Displaced Palestinians there were forced to flee yet again. Moath Al-Khalud spoke to those seeking shelter at a school in Jabalia, which is also in northern Gaza. Well, right now, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees is holding its annual pledging conference in New York. This all comes at a time of unprecedented challenges for the agency, which provides life-saving aid and services to Palestinians both in Gaza and elsewhere. UNRWA is saying it only has funds until the end of August. Well, the United States has adopted further sanctions against 3 Israeli settlers and a number of illegal outposts and entities operating in the occupied West Bank. Now, that brings... Well, in the United States, more Democrats have called on Joe Biden to quit the 2024 presidential race. It followed a nearly hour-long news conference at the end of a NATO summit when Biden parried questions about foreign policy and occasionally stumbled over his words. At least 18 congressional Democrats have now asked the president to drop out. Yet Joe Biden remains defiant. He says he's still the best person qualified to defeat Donald Trump. Let's hear from our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. Now, moving on, in Kenya's police chief, Japhet Koome, has resigned in the wake of the violent crackdown by security forces on protesters that killed 41 people last month. Well, still ahead here on Al Jazeera. And sport. Are you planning on buying one, Andy?
2, yeah.
Now, the resurgence of a deadly snake species in Bangladesh is causing panic in rural communities. Health facilities have been ordered to stock up on anti-venom. Scientists are saying the reappearance of the species... Well, that is it from me, Nastasya Tay, for this News Hour. But don't go away, I'll be back in just a couple of minutes with much more of the day's news. Do stay with us here on Al Jazeera.